Legiędź. I come from Poland. I work as a consultant at the company called Solid Brain, where I'm focused on delivering mixed reality experiences, mainly augmented reality stuff for Hololens glasses from Microsoft. I'm also a Microsoft MVP. I was awarded that because of my community engagement in the area of mixed reality. And also I'm a conference organizer called DevConf in Poland. So if you are a speaker, we have call for papers opened right now, and we have tickets on sale as well. That's a conference in Krakow, Poland in September. So why this kind of talk, you might be wondering, because augmented reality is not a new term. You probably have heard about it like years ago and even earlier. So why now? Why should we be interested in it? So I'm not talking from a perspective of like a super expert in that area. I'm rather like a big enthusiast and a supporter of these technologies. And I work with them, augmented reality in general, for the last 2 years, more or less. So the idea for this talk came from my last 2 years of talking about HoloLenses at various conferences, because I was here as well, for example. I did a lot of conferences talking about one particular piece of device in augmented reality world, and it occurred that many people in development community actually didn't know that this exists, or didn't know that you can actually do some stuff for this kind of devices, or they weren't aware that you can actually earn money with those kind of solutions, that there are actually companies that are interested in those AR experiences. So I decided to put up a talk which is more general and tells that, well, the time is now for now. Right now, and that we can embrace this technology. So going back to basics, what is augmented reality? Just to clear the confusion between AR and VR, because like still many people confuse the both terms and some others. So we have this parallel world to ours, which is called metaverse. It's the fancy definition of it is it's a combination of all virtual realities, all enhanced physical realities and the internet. But in fact, it's basically this virtual world that is parallel to ours. If you watched Ready Player One or read the book, how many of you have read it or watched it, Ready Player One? Not that many people actually. Well, it's a great movie. You should see it, or the book. The book is better. So basically, there's this another world where we can meet as avatars. I mean, that happens on the internet right now for years right now, but if you add VR and AR on top of it, we will be meeting each other or doing our work or going to school in VR. It's perfectly shown in the book Ready Player One, which I highly recommend. So in that metaverse, there is a continuum of different solutions, different experiences called Virtuality Continuum. And on the one hand, on one side of this Virtuality Continuum is the physical reality that we experience on our daily basis, I assume. And on the other hand is full virtual reality. So augmented reality lives very near this physical reality end of the spectrum, because whenever the user uses augmented reality experience or some kind of device, the user is not cut off from the physical world. The user is still fully aware that the world that he or she knows is around, right? But only this world is enhanced with some additional virtual digital content, right? On the other hand, with full virtual reality, the user's mind is tricked into thinking that the real world doesn't exist, right? How many of you have tried Oculus Rift or Vive? Yeah, I thought so. I mean, nowadays, everyone is familiar with those kind of solutions. And you probably experienced that even if you are fully aware that it's all fake, your mind sometimes is basically tricked and you can freak out sometimes, right? Especially when someone from that's standing next to you tries to poke you or something like that. It's just mind-blowing how the mind is tricked. So augmented reality, you can see some other terms that means more or less the same one of it is mediated reality, because augmented reality by definition is adding something on top of something. I mean, adding digital content on top of the view of the physical world. But there are some solutions that remove stuff from the physical world. Well, they do not remove it, but they cut it off from ourselves to experience it, meaning that I will show you an example that's going to be the best one. Basically, we can mediate the reality. We can pass through some things and enhance it with some other things. So one of the examples is, for example, the brand killer prototype, which is very cool. Those are pass-through glasses, augmented reality glasses that cut off brands from your vision. Just imagine what kind of horror for companies that might be in the future if anyone could have something like that on their heads, right? It's amazing, right? So that's only a tip of an iceberg, actually, of all the possibilities, right? And also, when we talk about augmented reality, we usually visualize it as some kind of glasses. But to be fair, we're talking about augmented reality, and reality isn't only thing that we experience with our eyes or vision, right? Reality is everything we feel with all our senses. So when we talk about augmented reality, it's about every device or experience that extend any of our sense. And there are solutions like that on the market right now. I mean, the most common one, I think, is active noise cancelling headphones, right? It's basically mediating the reality because, well, we can cut off some voices from some sounds from our surroundings, right? Isn't that perfect? And you can buy the big ones, or there are models that are small ones that you can just plug into your ears. And there are some prototypes where you can just enhance some treble or bass of the surrounding sounds. Well, it's perfect. Or you can tune in to a conversation in a crowded place, but you can tune in to a conversation with a person when you're in a crowded and noisy space, so that you can't hear the ambient noise, but you can hear the conversation. It's amazing, right? There's also the other example I could give you is an application called Detour. I found it not that long time ago when I was visiting different cities and I was trying to sightsee here and there. The application Detour is an iOS and Android, I think, app that basically is a sightseeing app. You pick a sightseeing tour there, and whenever you're in the city and if it's available, you put your headphones on, and whenever you walk somewhere where it guides you, your hearing is enhanced with some ambient noises, or, well, any sounds depending on the context or where you are. It's based on GPS tracking, of course. So, for example, I was in Marrakesh last year, and I was going through all the souks there, narrow, crowded streets, and the crowd noise was actually enhanced with some other noises of crowd within that application, which was pretty cool. It actually enhanced the whole experience of sightseeing, and you hear all the stories being told by some narrator there. And also there is some kind of visual arrows. When you look at your phone, you can see directions when you're lost. It's really cool, and it's also augmenting our hearing. The other examples, for example, might be devices for extending our touch. For example, for vision impaired persons, you can imagine this kind of person wearing some kind of a headset with depth sensors, for example, and that person could have some vibrating devices laid down on her or his body. So whenever we are approaching some kind of that person is approaching some kind of obstacle, depending on which height that obstacle is, that person can feel on this part of body where that obstacle will be, so that she or he can avoid, for example. The other thing is we can have a headset for vision impaired person, so that headset sees the faces of people that approach that person and can give information like voice information that some person is approaching you, some person is looking at you, because we can track eyes movement, so that we can just give more information to this person, and it's augmenting their word. And I can go on with this kind of examples. Anyway, but nowadays, most of the time when we hear augmented reality is, of course, about augmenting our vision most of the time, and most of the time when someone is mentioning augmented reality, it's about some kind of glasses or some kind of display things. And there are many companies that are investing in it. And what I'm trying to say here is that even if it's only about displays or enhancing our vision, it's not that easy problem to solve. The companies, I think they're not progressing that fast because, I mean, to produce a good, usable, comfortable pair of glasses that would deliver really good quality 3D graphics in front of you on a optical pass-through glasses, it's a really complex one. So those kind of companies, they need to tackle displays problem, cameras, positioning, every sensor things, then battery life, optics, image processing, AI, etc. So those kind of things are complex things to solve, and that's why I think we do not see them progressing that fast, but it is happening. So why should we care if we don't have this technology right now, right? So from our perspective, okay, we don't have ultimate small glasses that everyone can wear, and so why should I bother, right? Because most of us probably remember Google Glasses back in 2011 or 2012, right? Everybody heard about Google Glasses. It was really hyped by Google, right, back then. They were supposed to be a consumer product. They were supposed to enhance us, and I mean, users, they extrapolated the possibilities like pretty fast, right? But what it occurred not that long time after that, it was an utter fail, basically, because, well, the technology wasn't there. It was rather a poor man's AR there, and the society wasn't ready because, well, there was also this term coined back then, glass hole, right? For anyone that was wearing Google glasses where others weren't. So we just weren't ready. The world wasn't ready for this kind of thing. But luckily, well, Google killed this project, at least that's what most people knew. But luckily, vendors of this kind of solutions like Google or Microsoft or any other companies that are doing this stuff, they kept going, they kept investing in those experiences. And for example, Google actually released second version of Google Glasses in 2017. I don't know how many of you knew about that. But the reason why we, or most of the people, don't know about that is that vendors realize that consumers aren't ready for it. Consumers, well, and the technology is not there to deliver to the consumers product that would be comfortable enough or ubiquitous enough to wear like in public or on every day. So they focus on enterprises, because enterprises are more forgiving. If you would promise to enterprises that, well, the performance will be better or you will earn more money if you would use this kind of solution, then they're willing to sacrifice, I don't know, ergonomics or whatnot in order to just earn more money. So so those vendors kept working with enterprises, and Google, second version of Google Glasses or Microsoft HoloLens, etc., they were targeted strictly, or they are targeted strictly to enterprises. And regular consumers, I think they kind of forgot for some time about AR, because they kind of put it into a drawer like, okay, this is still a future, something we see in Star Trek or Star Wars, right? And then Pokemon Go happened, right? And that had a huge reach. And this is basically a game that I think taught most of the people that what AR is or what AR might be, right? And this is, and I think people started thinking again about augmented reality. And this is a good thing because, well, they started to have expectations on it again. And this is a very good thing, because the promise of augmented reality is basically pretty clear. We can imagine, like in not that distant future, I guess, because it's happening right now, we will all basically become experts in any area, because, well, you could have all the information from the internet, obviously, right in front of your eyes and placed in your physical reality in front of you in form of 3D content or digital content, which is blended with your surroundings, which is pretty cool. And if you would add like 5G connectivity on top of it, you can imagine that, well, basically you can do anything you want, right, in terms of like displaying stuff and interacting with it. And that's actually something that ancient Greeks already knew. It's called method of Loki, that our brain memorizes or learn from spatially located informations better than from unstructured data like numbers or like things written on a piece of paper. So the promise is pretty clear, and I think it will enhance us in a good way. But as developers, obviously, the people that will probably be involved in all the shift, we have to also remember that, well, there will be dangers associated with this shift, right? We all probably watched Black Mirror, and we know what can go wrong, I guess, right? The other reason to start thinking seriously about those technologies is that, and I think it's a good reason, is that it's not like one company is doing it. It's not some random startup doing some fancy thing on Kickstarter and everyone is keeping crossed fingers. It's every big player basically in our industry is doing something in this area. And okay, it works. And let's start with Facebook. Well, you probably know those fancy AR filters you can put on your face on Facebook, right? And just, I don't know, draw a hat on your head or something like that. But they also announced that they're working actively on delivering an AR headset soon. Apple released Apple AR Kit for all iOS devices 2 years ago, so that you can implement augmented reality experience on Apple phones and tablets. And they also rumored that they are working on augmented reality glasses as well. Google, well, they started with Google Glasses some years ago, and right now for all Android phones, well, maybe not all, but those more modern ones, they released AR Core in 2018, which is similar to AR Kit, so that you can build augmented reality applications for Android phones. And last but not least, Microsoft with HoloLenses, they released HoloLenses in well, the whole journey actually started with Kinect in 2010. That's where actually all the foundations that are in HoloLenses right now started to build up. But they are, I think, they're the most invested one company that invested in augmented reality right now. And there are some other big players like Huawei who claim that they're working on AR headset as well. So as you can see, it's not some fairy tale by small startup, but I mean, those companies, they understood that this is the piece of the technology that the money is in, and they're probably going to fight for it, right? And if you actually Google for AR headsets or for companies that vendors who produce those kind of headsets, you can probably find around 100 companies that make some kind of headsets. I mean, from very specialized ones that for healthcare or military to entertainment ones or the ones for manufacturing, etc. There are plenty of them. It's just there's no one ultimate device. Well, Microsoft or some Magic Leap company, they're trying to make it one device, right? But there's still no one ultimate device that could deliver proper AR experience. But it is happening. And we as developers, as I mentioned a bit earlier, for us, it's a huge opportunity right now, opening, that we can well, start embracing it soon enough, I mean early enough right now, so that when the technology will hit the mainstream, we have all the knowledge that's needed to, you know, really jump into that game, right? And the thing is that all the tools and I don't know, software packages are there for free. I mean, everyone has Android or iPhone or some kind of smartphone in their pocket. You can start playing with it right now and start building awareness in your companies or your customers that this is it, or we can do something with it because the time is now. And let's go quickly through a history of augmented reality, because as I mentioned, it's not a new term. So it all started with Pepper Ghost in 19th century, actually, and it's like 150 years ago. Pepper Ghost was, the picture is rather small, but it's staged in a theater. There's a person below the stage, and there's an actor on the stage. And when you lead the person below the stage, and there's a huge piece of glass here, the reflection of that person would appear on the stage. And well, that's a hologram, right? And it was being used back then. So as you see, this is not a new concept. And then we kept improving, of course. And during Second World War, first augmented reality systems were mounted in bomber planes or fighter planes. In 1950, teleprompter was developed. You all know what teleprompter is, probably. It's used for until nowadays, actively. Then 61, Philco's headset. It was not particularly AR headset, but what they did was the head movement tracking. So they Philco's company, they tackled the problem of tracking head movement. So that was a kind of milestone as well. 63, Bell, which produces helicopters, they started mounting cameras, IR cameras at the bottom of their helicopters, and the view from those cameras were projected to pilots' headsets. Then 67, that was some kind of milestone as well, because Tom Furness, who is known for being an AR grandfather, started working for US Air Force, and he was tasked with developing the very first jet fighter's pilot helmet, which was fully packed with augmented reality stuff. Because the problem they were tackling back then was that they were lacking space in jet fighters' cockpits, so they weren't able to put more screens or switches there. So they started designing helmets so that more stuff can be put into pilot's vision, and that's when it started. And this is the kind of milestone as well. 68, Sword of Damocles. The guy Ivan Sutherland, he developed first AR headset that was able to display a 3D cube in front of you, which was placed right in your space. You will see in a second. I mean, it wasn't like very ergonomic, but still it did its job. You can see a wireframe box there. And that was in the 60s. Let's go there. Steve Mann, he created first headset when you had glass on, well, you had your one eye covered, and you had a screen right on the back of that device, and the camera was on the other side, so that anything that came through the camera was being displayed to your eye, and then he added some digital stuff on top of it. He enhanced this image. That was in the 80s. Sony experimented with augmented reality as well, and they released in 1996 Sony Glastron, which was supposed to be an entertainment device, but I think it didn't stay for long. I mean, I haven't played with that, but that was basically for playing games. Then some other people were experimented at some universities with augmented reality, but all of them prototypes were bulky. They usually involve the computer in your backpack, some kind of GPS tracker and the tablet and some kind of glasses. Then in '98, the very first augmented reality yellow line in the sports television was drawn. And you probably are familiar with sport games where some augmented reality stuff is being drawn on the field, right? So that we can have more information from the game. Then first toolkit for developers to develop augmented reality experiences was released in 1999, which was called AR Toolkit, and it's here until now. And that was kind of a gateway for developers to start working on stuff in augmented reality. Then, well, this wasn't a very promising thing, but at least fun. That's why I put it here. In year 2000, guys did AR Quake, well, which was kind of a port of first version of Quake, but to their prototype of AR glasses, which was basically, well, shooting enemies in your backyard. They will eventually be there, I think. Oh, there they are. So yeah, and that was 19 years ago. Probably you puked after that, I don't know. Can't imagine. And then when we got mobile phones with cameras, people started experimenting with AR experiences on mobile phones. And around 2004, one of the first AR experiences on phones were there, based on those markers. Then Lego started investing in it. We might know, I don't know when was the last time you checked the Lego catalog, the paper one, but right now they have apps for phones, and you can scan or look for this app on a Lego catalog, and the models just pop out from this paper. You've seen it, right? So they're investing in it up until now, but back then they created this box for their shops with stationary AR system 10 years ago. So when you approach that box, that camera with a box of Lego set, the 3D model of the completed set popped out. Then the next toolkit called Vuforia was released in 2009, which is a very good toolkit available up until now for creating AR experiences. Then 2010, that's around the time when Kinect was actually released. Microsoft started working on Microsoft HoloLens in 2010, which is 9 years ago. They released it in 2016, just to remind you. So that's when HoloLens started, and that was called Project Baraboo. Then Magic Leap, which is kind of the biggest competitor of HoloLens. I'm gonna mention it more after. But they started gathering funds in 2011. That's a startup. Then Epson, they released their prototype of their glasses, which are available right now as well, in 2011. And then also the Google Glasses happened. But well, most hyped was Google Glasses, as you might know. And after that, I will continue later, but after that, it's basically when smartphones hit the market, and we rather saw more and more experiences on the smartphones. But after seeing all of them, devices, experiences, we then can categorize them finally into some buckets. So we have all augmented reality systems. We can divide them in wearable and non-wearables. And in wearables, we have helmets, contacts, and headsets. Helmets are all those that cover most of our head. Contacts are, well, contact lenses. We don't have anything available on the market right now, but it's known that some companies like Samsung, for example, they are working on some kind of augmented reality contacts. And headsets, it's everything like Microsoft HoloLens, for example, or Google Glasses, which if they are integrated, you just put those headsets on. If they're add-on, you just clip them onto your regular glasses. Well, currently, I think the newest version of Google Glass is actually add-on, so you clip it on to your regular glasses. And also, there's, for example, cool example of it's called Garmin Insight, I think. Garmin, the company that does GPSs and sports wearables, for example, they do augmented reality add-on glasses for cyclists, so you can clip on those augmented reality device to your glasses, and you would see like speed and map and etc. in front of your eye, which is pretty cool. And then non-wearables like mobile, stationary, HUD. Mobile is everything we do on our phones and tablets. Stationary is what we saw, for example, that Lego did in 2009. And HUD are heads-up displays, which can be factory mounted or retrofitted. Retrofitted are all those that you can buy to your car, for example, and just put it in front of your, like next to your windshield. And factory are, for example, those in jet fighter planes. So then, when we got smartphones, like 2010, 9, they got more computing power. Some augmented reality experiences started to pop out, and most of them were basically based on some kind of markers. You probably have seen that, right? Everyone's familiar with that. So it worked in a way that the camera detected the marker, then the system was able to place some kind of coordinate system aligned with that marker, and then if you got coordinate system, you could place virtual stuff in that coordinate system so that it was sticking with the marker. So even if you move that marker, this digital stuff was moving with that marker. And it did its job pretty good. I've seen lots of examples, mainly in the education area, for example. I've seen a cool demo of the guy from NASA when I was at one conference back then in 2010. He was explaining the whole Apollo 11 mission with only those tiles with codes. So the Saturn V rocket was divided into pieces, of course, with all the stages, and every stage had its own marker, and he was like playing with those cards, and the camera and the view from the camera was showing the whole models rendered, which was pretty cool. So it had its usages. But then after some times we got more computing power in our devices, etc. So we could analyze our environments in a better way. And this is what is called second wave of augmented reality experiences, where it's all about the context. Meaning that we no longer need markers to attach stuff in our physical world. I mean, to attach digital stuff in our physical world. Some of our devices are smart enough or powerful enough to detect floors, walls, ceilings. They can detect pieces of furniture. They can detect objects, and based on this, and where you, for example, point as a user, you can put some stuff, virtual stuff, in this physical environment, and this thing will stay there, right, without need of anything external, which is pretty awesome. And the other thing is in this new wave of augmented reality experiences is sharing, because up until now, or not that long time ago, to share your AR experience, you probably had to just show the screen to your friend or colleague. But right now, many experiences are able to share it to other device. So this is a view, for example, from the picture from WWDC last year, I think, when ARKit 2 was released. And this is a picture showing two people playing a game, AR game, together, multiplayer, and the other guy watching as a spectator. So right now, some solutions, they're able to share the AR experience with others. And there's also the concept of AR cloud. So after AR started hitting the mainstream, or after they started gathering popularity, companies realized that we might want to place virtual things anywhere in the world eventually, so that when I place something on the main screen in Bucharest, I would like anyone else that would come there and fire up this application to see this thing sitting there, right? So many startups, they started thinking about how we can map the world, build a huge point cloud of that represents our world, or something like that. And they're actively working on that. Google is creating their own cloud, which is called Google Cloud Anchors. And it's something that, well, you can scan your environment with the phone, then it uploads to the cloud, and then some other person running the same application, the same place, they can download those anchors, and then they can render the same stuff, the same place where that first person placed that. They have some limitations because I think those anchors lives for only 24 hours or something like that. So it's not, well, I can't leave it for a year or something like that. But what Microsoft recently announced, along with HoloLens 2 announcement, are Azure Spatial Anchors, which is really exciting thing, because this is more or less along the line what Google is doing with spatial anchors, but they basically upload those anchors to Azure Cloud, and they're just there. And whenever some other person bring them to their device, they can recreate whatever the other person left. So this, if you can imagine, this can unlock lots of possibilities, right, in the future. And with all the sharing solutions, just imagine collaborative scenarios where you can talk about some design model with your colleagues. You are wearing, for example, HoloLens headsets, or like one person watching thing through HoloLenses, and the other person looking through the tablet, but you can all experience the same virtual content in your physical world. This is all available right now. And now let's go through those solutions that are available for us as developers. So, I mean, those solutions that we can put our hands on, depending on our budget, of course, but those that we can actually start delivering the value. So the first one I'm gonna tell you about is HoloLens, my favorite. How many of you have heard about HoloLens? Oh wow, it's not full room. Oh, okay. So I have the first version with me. If anyone would like to try it after the talk, I'm happy to show you. It's not as fancy as this one on the picture, because that's second version, but I have it. So just approach me after the session to try it out, if you like. But HoloLens is self-contained PC computer basically, so you don't have to tether it to anything. It just runs. It's just a PC that runs Windows 10, and it has a see-through display, so you're not cut off from your real environment. You still see whatever is around you, and then depending on an application, some 3D stuff is being rendered around you, right? Like here, for example. And well, it detects hand gestures. It detects voice commands, and has all sorts of communication things like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, of course, and the battery life is 3 hours. The limitation with, so when Microsoft released HoloLens 1 in 2016, of course there were some limitations. I mean, the field of view wasn't that big because the holograms were only visible in a small area in front of your eyes. The battery life wasn't that good. The ergonomics weren't that good because it's kind of heavy in the front. So when you wear it for a longer time, you just feel it on your nose. So there were some limitations or some pain points. But what Microsoft did was a perfect job with like listening to what could be improved with HoloLenses, and they released the second version in like half of a month ago. Well, they do not release it. They announced it because you can't buy it. You can't pre-order it. So they're going to be delivered in like, I think, summertime, more or less. But they improved. They did a proper iteration on top of it. So you can see that they really care about this product or this technology. And the price, well, that's the most important thing. So this costed for $3,000 for a dev kit. And if you would like to sell it to with your project or to the company, you had to buy enterprise one, which was $5,000. The main difference was that the enterprise one had warranty and the dev kit didn't have a warranty. So you buy warranty for like $1,500 basically. So yeah, that was kind of expensive. The newer ones cost a little bit less, well, because it's $3,500. So it's less than $5,000, but still more than the dev kit for $3,000. But Microsoft said that they're going to announce things for developers soon, like in May. So I don't know, maybe they will release something cheaper for developers. I have no clue, right? They didn't say yet. But it's basically new HoloLens is $3,500. The thing is, you can't buy HoloLens 1 anymore, at least dev kit. They ran out of it like several months actually ago. So there was this gap between the release of HoloLens 2 and the end of availability of HoloLens 1. And well, how does it look like? It's basically, you put the headset on and you can align stuff with physical objects. You can attach digital stuff to physical objects. You can just place things around you. You can interact with this digital content, etc. You will try it out on HoloLens after the session if you would like. Also, improvements in the second version of HoloLens, because that's important. So they improved in ergonomics. Well, they claim they are 3 times more comfortable than the first one, but I don't know how they measure it, if something is 3 times more comfortable. But what they did is they placed more weight here because the battery pack is on the back. You can see it in the picture, so it lays more comfortably. And the visor is flipped, so you can, if you want to just not use the AR experience, you can just flip up the visor and have this headset still on your head without putting it off. Also, they added eye tracking, so you can track your eyes. You can just follow the interest of the user by tracking his eyes. It wasn't available in the first version, so with the first version the user had to do a lot of head movements because the cursor was attached kind of to your forehead so that it follows your gaze basically. And it has new depth sensor. New Kinect is basically inside, which is called Azure Kinect, which you can buy as a separate product actually as well. Then Apple and ARKit. ARKit is a toolkit. It's a native toolkit from Apple, so that you can program against it and deliver AR experience for iPhones or iPads. You experienced anything like that on your phone? It's easy to imagine basically. It uses the camera and it processes the feed from the camera. It detects floor, for example, or walls, and well, you can place digital stuff attached to your physical things like floors, for example. And they're getting better and better. The thing is that the magic happens here only with one camera. So HoloLenses or Magic Leap, they're packed with sensors, but phones have only one camera, right? So they put lots of effort to all this image processing stuff, etc. But it became available because, well, the CPUs that are inside are getting better and better. Then, as I'm running out of time, there's AR. I'm gonna to speed up a little bit. There's AR Core. This is a very similar thing, but for Android devices. And then there's Magic Leap, as I said, the competitor of HoloLens product, basically, and it works very similar to HoloLens. It has a very similar factor. There are slight differences, and when it comes to capabilities, I would say it's placed somewhere in between HoloLens 1 and 2. It's somewhere in between, and it costs. You can order it for $2,300. And this is a cool thing. This is called Project North Star. It's from Leap Motion. Have you heard about Leap Motion? They used to be known for this small brick that you connect to your PC, and you can detect your finger movements and stuff. Have you seen it ever? No, okay, so that was like several years ago. What they did is they created an open source headset, so you can download all the things from GitHub and just 3D print this this headset. And what is cool about this is that they released videos what it's possible on those devices, because what they do is they track hands in a very good way. It's amazing. If you Google for Project North Star, there are plenty of videos of them doing this kind of crazy stuff. Just imagine cheating on exams in the future, right? It's like history. All right. And if you would ask me, okay, which industry might be interested in those kind of solutions, right? Because I said, I mean, this is not consumer ready. I mean, if you target iOS or Android, you can target kids or adults that only wants entertainment. So you can think about creating AR game, but only for those platforms. But if you're thinking about creating a cool game for HoloLens, for example, don't expect to earn lots of money, because it's not like every kid will be running with HoloLenses on the street soon, right? But from my experience and what I've seen, and after I talk with lots of companies, I can clearly state that basically any industry is interested in this kind of experiences of solutions. They just don't know it yet, because I know that developers aren't aware enough about these technologies, and we are tech-savvy people, right? But business people, they have no idea if those kind of things even exist. They might heard about it, but it's far away from understanding it or believing that it can actually bring value and money. So you can basically target anyone. And well, probably soon enough, if the technology will be there and companies will bundle up all kind of augmented realities into one device, we will end up having some kind of like tricorder from Star Trek probably, but we'll wear it somewhere on our head. And let the inventors, it's Alex Kipman, the guy behind HoloLenses, let them do their job, but we as developers, let's embrace it. Let's start doing stuff. Let's build awareness. That's my main point, so that more and more people start embracing it. It's very important. And if you would like to know more about those technologies, there are 3 great books. Probably there are more books about that, but those 3 I read, and I highly recommend it if you would like to get more information about where we are headed with that. And well, I don't know if anyone is taking a picture of this slide yet. And that's pretty much it. That's the last slide. Thank you. Are there any questions? If you like to try it out, just find me somewhere on the corridor and we will play with it. Thank you.